right, I'm going to take you guys through memory lane. It's K Mega's top 10 all time console games, the games that got me into being a gamer. Uh, you may not know what this game is, but it might look familiar with you, especially for the old heads out there. That's why, because it's so similar to one of my favorite arcade games, and that is Joust. Joust was the real deal for me. When I tell those stories about when I was going to the laundromat and my mom would give me quarters, Joust, it was Pac-Man, it was Defender. Those was my games, and Joust was just absolutely my jam. So when I was going to the Walmarts as a kid with my grandmother and my mom, they would have a display of the NES with Balloon Fight, which is that's what this game is, Ice Climber, and Mario Brothers. Well, Mario Brothers was just there was so many kids on playing Mario Brothers. Ice Climber had a few, but Balloon Fight didn't really get that run. But because I love Joust so much, I was playing the hell out of this game. So I loved it. It was my very first NES game. When I got one that following year, I begged for one. And so I played Mario later. Balloon Fight was my jam. I loved it to death. And that was like one of those games that I just kind of gravitated to. Even though I played the Atari, still the Nintendo was the one that really got me in. And this was the particular game right here that made me go all in. And that is Rygar. Rygar was so serious. It was so hard. When I was a kid, I didn't beat it. When I got older, I went back and I had to beat it. The game wasn't really all that long, but it was still was challenging even for like a preteen. I was 13, 14 when I beat the game, but this game was cool. The animations was dope. The music was dope to me. I really enjoyed the game, especially when you was running across the land and with the anyway. But it was Rygar was just special. When they even did the remakes, I was enjoying those. But this is the one game that really had me all in. And when people talk about soul games and all those other games that's really hard now, man, go ahead and try you some Rygar or some Ghosts and Goblins. I promise you, you will not, or Russian Attack. Those games are not for the weary. I trust you for that. But Rygar was really one of those games, so like I said, that got me all in. Just wanted to just beat that game. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you listen to me, then you already should know that this game right here was definitely going to be in this list. And that is Tekken. Tekken is just a game changer for me. Now, I've always liked fighters. I mean, we go back to the old Karate Gaze, Kung Fu, Eternal Champion CD, loved it. But Tekken just hit something different for me. I mean, I really enjoyed this fighter. To this day, I still love this fighter. I have it on everything that I own, platform-wise. PC, Xbox, PlayStation, just whatever. And this game right here was the one that made me make the call. Instead of getting the Saturn, I got the PlayStation because of this game. This in NFL Game Day. And I don't ever regret it because Tekken to this day is still really special to me. So of course this had to be in my top 10. All right, so let's move on. Another one. This is a game that a lot of people are still asking for. I hope that those Capcom rumors are true because Power Stone is just, it was unique, it was special, and there was a lot of arena fighters that came out around in the 80s or late, well, I shouldn't say 80s, but in the 90s for sure. But you know, Pitfall is one of the others that I can really think of that I really liked, but this was something special. Sega, or I should say Capcom, because this is kind of synonymous with Sega because it was on the Dreamcast, but this game just hit hard, and I think it came on the PSP as well, or the second one. But yeah, there was nothing as cool as Power Stone, and I hope that they bring this game back and even bring the older ones back. Now, this game right here, I've talked about this game a million times. This is what really pushed me into want to check out Japanese RPGs. Legend of Legaia. It had a cool premise, and as you can see, there's some fighting elements to it, but it was so different because it was a turn-based JRPG that had fighting mechanics, and the fighting mechanics at that time was just ridiculous. As you can see, the super arts, 3 of the protagonists, I just loved the game. It took about maybe around, I don't know. It took me about 40, 45 hours to beat. It was, getting into these older, these games. You get older and you want to just go in and dive in. But the more that you play, the crazier that your specials would be, which would be your special arts. Loved it, and shout out to the emulators because this is my gameplay right here, and I'm just showing us this stuff. But yeah, the nostalgia of playing this game just brought all the excitement back. I don't think that the studio that made this game is around anymore. I do know that Sony published the game, but the company themselves is out of there. So, just like I miss Sunsoft, which made Tabal, which was another cool little fighter. But yeah, again, this was another game that was really special and dear to my heart, because this is what actually got me into want to try out Final Fantasy VII. And I never played any Final Fantasies until after I played and I beat this game. Now, this game right here is very, very special. And at the time, I was deep into Japanimation, or as people would call it, anime, back in the 90s. And this was the game that pushed me into playing Final Fantasy VII. And this is Xenogears. Xenogears was deep, really deep. I mean, I think the inspiration came from Childhood's End. And I've also, Fei Long was the protagonist. I knew that. But it had a lot of religious overtones. Other people thought it was it was connected to another Japanimation. It was with mechs, and there were angels, and there was demons, and I can't actually pinpoint and think of the name of that Japanimation. Or anime, because back then we used to call it Japanimation. But anyway, regardless, that just shows how old I am. But anyway, so that's one of the things to me is with this game was just dope. The story was deep. It wasn't childish. And even though like I love Legend of Legaia because of its combat, but the story was nowhere near neither. And I enjoyed Wild Arms as well. And that's what really, but this game was the one that really propelled me into the JRPG realm. Like, it really got me going and loving their stories. Because, like I said, it was more adult oriented. It was just a deep, really cool game. Now, I did play the sequel. I beat both of those games. But then they did another one. I forgot the name of that one. It could have been just Xenogears 3, but I didn't get a chance to play that. It just didn't seem right. But yeah, that was definitely a really special one. This right here, though, listen, now I know I said something about Final Fantasy VII, right? And that is that, and people talk about Final Fantasy VI. I've never played Final Fantasy VI, so I will hopefully get a chance to play that. But my Final Fantasy GOAT is this right here, Titus and Sin. This is the one. And you'll say, Mega, the one with the guy doing the crazy laugh?
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.
Yeah, that's the one. But regardless, it had its cheesy moments, but the game was top notch. Graphically at the time, nothing really wasn't touching it. Story wise, it was deep. It really pulled me, man. I really, really enjoyed it. And to this day, I have to sit back and I have to play it. Just kind of like an old movie. Like, you just got to go back and just reminisce and think about those good times with this game. Like, and it has some really, really impactful characters that was actually reminiscent to me on Final Fantasy VII. Now, of course, I had to put this in. This is definitely one of the GOATs, one of the best games of all time. God of War. I know I was scared of the newer God of War because this was what I was used to, and I guess that was the David Jaffe version. But yeah, this was just it was just too raw, cold. One of the coldest protagonists out there, Kratos. I love God of War. God of War is just one of those games that you just play. It's raw. It's rugged. It takes no apologies. Now, again, older Kratos in the latest one, yeah, he's calmed down, gotten older, gotcha. But this is what I love, man. And there was no games being played when he got a hold of you, he tore your ass up. And that was so different. And of course, like the button mashing thing, I know a lot of people was the button prompts or whatever, the input. I still like that in those games, man, because I mean they just they could do clever things with the design, but that was the first time for me ever really paying attention to that in this game. Plus, just what you did, the gore within the game, it was savage. Like there wasn't nothing. Like I said, this game was not apologetic whatsoever, and it's one of the best games I've ever played in my life, man. And that is saying from God of War 1 through 3. I get about Ascension, but then you got the Chains of Olympus. You have all the ones that was on the PSP, and then the latest God of War, which it was good, really really good. So yeah, God of War is just one of those games that will last the test of the time. Can't wait to play the next one. But yeah, this was definitely one of those games that changed how I felt about certain protagonists. And then of course the other GOAT, it had to be in here, the mighty Halo. This was the game right here that changed my, I was in that, and I'm pretty sure for older gamers out there and for gamers that will get older, I think every gamer goes through this, where they have a moment of like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit too old for this. Maybe it's just time for me to just put the controllers down and just move on. The Dreamcast faded away. The PlayStation 2 wasn't doing it like that for me anymore. Certain games just didn't have that same appeal. Plus, taking care of a family, a lot of work hours, so you just didn't have the time. But life, responsibilities, being in a long relationship, it's just so many adult things that was going on at that time that I thought that gaming was pretty much done. But it was my kid that got me deep into the game. Even though I loved it and played it with my friends, I still didn't have the time. But my son was so captivated by Halo that it made me even more captivated. And then once we went to the video store that we went to, it was called Video Haven. There was a guy I knew, his name was Frosty, and he told us about the LAN parties. And so on Friday nights after my son got out of school, we would go up there, we would have the LAN parties, and he could stay up late, so he already liked that or whatever. But then, it just made us more in tune with the Halo game. And then we went to the launch of Halo 2. That changed everything because we have never seen anything like that. And he hasn't either with his young age. And so it was just a beautiful thing, man. Halo is always going to be special to me. So I can't wait for Infinite. But last but not least, one of my favorite games of all time is The Witcher 3. It had to be in here. And I mean, there were so many games. When I was going through my gameplay, and then there were some games I knew that I haven't played in a long time, so I did that gameplay, and I was just like, I looked at my list, and it was like 35 games, and I'm like, oh man, I got to narrow this down. And so I know that there's going to be a lot of people that's going to dissect my top 10, and that's fine, and I can't wait to hear your top 10. But this game right here, The Witcher 3, was absolutely, it was a masterpiece from beginning to end. Love everything about it. I hate that some people couldn't get into the combat, and so they stayed away from this, but this game was just too raw. The side missions were deep, detailed, and it affected everything. This game had, I think over 100 different endings. So the first time I had like the crazy bad ending, and then the other time that I had a pretty good ending. But regardless, it's just a special game, man. And CD Projekt Red is going to be always up there, top tier for me, just because of this game alone. It was really, really, really good, really good. So yeah, and it beat out Mass Effect, which is another game that I really enjoy. And then me recently just going and beating Dragon Age 3, or Inquisition, I should say. Man, and but that's just, The Witcher is just one of the GOATs, man. And just Red Dead Redemption. There's been a lot of great games that I played through my entire life, man, since I've been gaming, and it's a special hobby that I will never ever stop doing now, and that thanks to some of the games that I was just showing you in this video. So let me know what you guys think. Also, what is your top 10? Can't wait to hear what you got to say, because I know that there'll be a Zelda, Mario, Metroid, etc. So everybody have a good one. Peace.